Hi again guys, and welcome to episode 32 of Weekend Warriors, the review series for GranTurismo's sports cars of various types, two-door, two-seater convertibles, or big 2+2 luxury coupes, and everything in between. Now this particular vehicle is a slightly larger sports car. It's a 2+2 coupe, and it's a very, very popular car on GT6. Now, if you've been playing GT6 for a little bit longer, you'll probably remember that this car was added to the game as a DLC vehicle in both initially normal form and then later on with this pace car version. And initially, this car actually wasn't that good. We weren't able to tune it, and it didn't even have a fully detailed interior. Then, after a few updates later, we got that fully detailed interior, we were allowed to tune the car, and we also got the pace car, which is one of the most popular DLC models of GT6's entire run. Now, the addition of tuning to this car really made it so much more useful, because in its stock form, it's not a bad car, but for the price of 120 grand, it wasn't that great. Now, in fully tuned form, this car can genuinely take on supercars. It's got a 3-litre turbo engine, it's rear-wheel drive, as BMWs almost always are, and fully tuned, you're looking at 1,000 horsepower. You're also looking at 739 foot-pounds of torque, and when you combine those two impressive numbers in a package that, despite being a reasonably sized luxury coupe, only weighs 1,232 kilos, which is only fractionally more than a WRC rally car, and that's pretty impressive. The horsepower per tonne is supercar level at 812, and the PP is, as you'd probably assume, pretty high at 631. And so, funnily enough, with just the simple addition of allowable upgrades and tuning, what went from a pretty useless 120 grand car suddenly became a fantastic value for money 120 grand car, because there are very few vehicles for less than that which have that kind of spec. Now the question is, what can it do with that spec? Because the fact that it's powerful and the fact that it's popular aren't necessarily guarantees that it's actually a good car. There are powerful vehicles on GranTurismo which aren't that quick. The Oldsmobile Tornado isn't as quick as its power would suggest. The Jay Leno tank car isn't as quick as many other vehicles with far less power, sometimes even less than half the power. So does this car actually deliver? Well, yes, it definitely does. The top speed isn't as strong as something like a Viper or a Corvette, but it can do around 270, 275 under its own power. That's without the use of NOS, no slipstream, and naturally with the use of those advantages it can go far higher, easily well beyond 300. In fact, it can keep up with, under the right circumstances, vehicles like Veyrons, Nismos and Huayras around Special Stage Route X. It's a very popular choice of car around that track. Now, in both forms, the pace car and the normal M4, incidentally, as far as I can tell, they're both exactly the same. I've used both of them extensively, and I've never found any significant performance difference between the two. Obviously, the visuals are different, and that's about it. They both have the same body upgrades, but the pace car, of course, has the addition of optional lights and the totally different livery. Apart from that, just choose whichever one you prefer. Now, my more used model of the two is actually the normal M4, because to me, the whole pace car gimmick is a nice novelty in a similar way to the pace car Skylines, but to me, I don't really need that gimmick. I can understand why people would like that, but it just doesn't do it for me. Now, another important and also interesting comparison that needs to be made about the M4 is, how does it compare to the M3? Because in particular the E92 M3, which is still expensive at over 90 grand, but again is cheaper than this, is a very good car, and that car set the bar very high for what an M car could and should be like, as does the M5. So does the M4 feel like a significant step up? Because for a start, it's got a smaller engine, it's not necessarily as old school as the M3 is, so has it become too technical, or is it better? Well, for sheer performance, there's no question. It's a far faster vehicle, it's more powerful. For a start, it's allowed to be turbocharged, whereas the M3 is not, and that makes a huge difference. As great as the M3 is, the M4 is definitely the superior vehicle as far as its tuning limitations. Now, if you tune them to the same PP level, I'm not sure which one would actually win. It would be a pretty good battle between the two. I'd probably give the slight edge to the M4, but I think the M3 would give it a great run for its money. And overall, I would say that the M4 is a brilliant choice of sports coupe. It's one of the best cars of this whole series, and it's one of the relatively few sports cars or sports coupes which can genuinely take on super sports cars and even supercars. And in the case of the M4, it's actually good enough to even rival some race cars in terms of its PP specific ability. When it's tuned to a certain level, it can definitely take on those vehicles. Now, I would say that the main advantage of the M4 is different to that of the M3. The M3, in particular, I'm thinking of the E92 again, is best as a track car. The handling is its best point. With the M4, it's not. The handling on the M4 isn't bad, but the fact that it can be so powerful and so fast just overshadows that. And so I would say, funnily enough, they're actually not similar vehicles at all. The M3, I would say, is more of a pure track car, whereas the M4 gives you that extra straight line advantage. But overall, it's a great vehicle to go for in normal or pace car form, and definitely check it out. But that's it for this pick overall. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.